2022 committee meetings. As we get started, there's a couple of things. Thank you. I'll remind all commissioners, turn your mics on. So, welcome commissioners. This is our first committee meeting / work session, and we've got a lot to do. It's not only in this that we do, but we've got a learning curve. Many are new, and as we start, I want to remind that our committee chairs, that you're in charge of your committee meetings. Your personnel will address you. And when during public speaking, during your committee meetings, the public addresses the chair of that committee, the chair of that committee, yes. So I just want us all to be thoughtful in that. I hope we can get off to a good start here. There's leniency is asked for because it is a learning curve, folks. Now, we don't always have the right answer at the right minute. So I'm asking for leniency. We're going to grow as we go. All of us are working together. There will be a lot to do, and on purpose of that, I think we have a lot scheduled, actually, so we can get our feet wet. Any questions from the commission? One last thing, just earlier in our special call meeting, there was some information. I just wanted to make a clarification. There was an idea that we approved something that wasn't in the budget, that we didn't have the money for, and I just wanted to assure everyone that it is in the budget. We are not out of budget with our raises or whatever that we did. It's perfectly there. I just wanted to make that clarification. This week we went back and looked at that. If anyone needs any more information, please see me after the meeting. That said, I'll call on Finance Chair Bobby Hahn.
Thank you, Chairman. I call the Finance Committee to order. Excuse me. Do we have anyone that is wishing to address the committee?
Hamblen, 8150 West Point Drive, Mr. Hunt. I'm just looking at
Okay.
everybody,
Okay.
not just you.
I got you. Well, you address the chair is why I'm
So,
saying it.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes.
I know he's the chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to talk about number 4 on B, on financing of the landfill expansion. I know we've tried to get the money. I know Mr. Britton tried to get the money, Mr. Hahn, from the Solid Waste Board, and that failed. So I can't remember if he got it from the $350,000 from the garbage fund or the general fund. I can't remember which one he got it from. But Mr. Wayne Neesmith brought it up that we should get it from the general fund. And I appreciate him for doing that. But Mr. Britton didn't agree with Mr. Neesmith. He went to the Solid Waste Board to see if he could get the money there first. So, what I'm saying to you tonight is, we've got $11 million in that general fund. That's the most we've ever had. We've spent big money on jails and on other things, and all we taxpayers want is our roads paved. And we haven't got that. We pay the taxes, we should have our roads paved. And I think instead of $350,000, we should take $700,000 from the general fund and pave some more roads for our county taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for bringing that up, Mr. Neesmith. Thank you for bringing that up. That was an excellent idea. We've got plenty of money for everything else. Why can't we do some more roads?
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Anyone else wish to address the Finance Committee? Okay, see none, so we'll move forward. Nice little tune there. Under recurring business, 2A, the expenditure reports, that's for information purposes only. 2B, review acceptance of monthly checks for August of 2022.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I ask a question about one of the expenditures, please?
you can.
You have got an expenditure coming from Fund 51300 for $650 to South Marketing Group. I'm just curious, it doesn't give a description as to what it is. What is it? I've seen it several times, so what is it?
Mr. Mayor?
We contract with South Marketing Group to manage our social media, the Facebook page, and that's what they do.
How often do we spend, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, how often do we spend that $650?
It's a monthly charge.
Okay, have we bidded that out?
No, we did not.
Can I ask why we didn't?
It's professional services, we didn't have to bid it out.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Green? New business, 4A, Justice Center project update. Jerron Walter, Burwell Construction Company. Oh, I'm sorry. Give us 1 second. We do need to approve the checks.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion? Thomas Doty,
Second.
Rodney Long. Okay. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Now, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Stowalter. Thank you.
Good evening. We have photos running that'll give us some of the progress photos that's taken place here. You see some cast in place concrete that's being completed and done, being stored off site. Those are all for the exterior walls. This is some aerial photos of Sequence 5 mat slab pour. This is a pivotal point in this project. This gets us out of the ground and up. We had all the micropiles, they all connect to that mat slab, and from here up we're going vertical. That was poured last Wednesday. The last Sequence 5 mat slab was poured last Wednesday. It was about 940 yards. They did about 200 yards per hour. Significant amount of production going on out there. Here you can see. This last Friday as well, there was about 120 yards poured for basement walls. You can see some of them along the edges there that have been poured already. You can continue on through them, it's all right. Yeah, you can see them being formed. These are some of the basement walls that are being formed, prepped and poured. 120 yards was poured last Friday. This Friday will be another 120 yards poured. Off-site, we have structural steel still being fabricated. It's scheduled for November to be installed to start. Detention cells are already fabricated and off-site. And again, precast is scheduled for May of next year. For billing, we're at 28.13% complete. Stored materials is at 16.56%, with work in place at 11.57%. Still, the scheduled completion date is March 4th, 2024. Any questions?
Which side is the front? We were talking about it earlier and we can't tell.
Well, let's see if we can get to one of these photos that can show us.
It's this side that faces the old Allison Street,
Okay,
this way.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
So on this photo, which way is Pond Street on that?
To the left.
That way?
To the left. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was turning around.
So facing the other building, the,
The existing gym.
is it going this
Rescue
way?
Squad building, where Allison Street used to run.
Allison is right here.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got to ask a question for you.
Go ahead.
What's your PSI on your concrete?
Good question. I can tell you here in just a second.
What was that?
PSI on
Yes,
the
okay.
hardness of the
Yeah.
concrete?
Per square inch.
So for which concrete? Well, I'm pulling it up here. Is it for the slab itself, the mat slab that we're looking
Yeah,
at?
just basic concrete. You may be using different PSIs for different parts of the project.
So design strength's 4,000,
What?
4,000 PSI,
4,000 PSI? Okay.
but it's hitting significantly higher than that on most.
The
most
what?
test report. It's hitting significantly higher than that on most test reports, but 4,000 is the basis of design.
Do y'all test that when it comes in?
Yes, absolutely.
That's all I got.
Anyone else have any questions?
Running with the 28% complete, is that running on schedule, or are we behind, or a little bit ahead, or?
No, we're on schedule. Yep, no delays.
You were talking about the micro piles, and you said that we are done with those now, and the slab,
We are complete with this area. There's about 14 micropiles that they have to remobilize to get to. There's a logistical
yes,
thing to get to. So there's about 14 of them. I believe in December, they'll be back on site to get those done.
okay,
Out of 500 some odd micropiles.
right. I was just thinking that I remembered that being said, and I thought it might be a point of confusion. I just wanted to get, verify.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Move on to 4B, financing of the landfill. Mayor Britton.
I've been before the commission about our landfill the last few months and just want to update you on the landfill expansion and where the solid waste board is and the county commission's role in that. Currently, there's about a year left in the landfill that we're operating. At this time, the Solid Waste Board is making plans to expand that and extend its life by about 30 years, hopefully more than that. There's some land that the solid waste system currently owns, and it is the land that will be developed first in the expansion. It's called Phase 1 and Phase 2, and that will extend the life of the landfill about 14 years. And then the commission voted a couple of months ago to team with the city and purchase some property as well as a Class 3 landfill from GFL. It's over 80 acres, which includes the Class 3 landfill for $700,000 total. Our part of that is $350,000. And it will extend the life of using the Class 3 landfill, which is your construction demolition. It's non-household waste. That goes into a Class 1 landfill. And that will extend the life another 16 to 18 years, getting us over the 30-year mark. So what the engineers have estimated is that to develop Phase 1 and Phase 2 on the property we already own, to develop the sale and the other cost involved with developing that sale would take about $9 million. And so what the Solid Waste Board, there's a letter in your packet from the chairman, Tom Rush. He's asking both the city and county to split the $9 million at $4.5 million each. And the Solid Waste Board would supply the revenue to the city and county to pay off those bonds. The Solid Waste Board does not have the authority to issue debt, so they cannot do it themselves. The last sale that was developed at the landfill was done jointly by the city and county. The city and county issued debt to develop that sale. And so that we're following the same format that was done. It's probably been almost 20 years ago when it was done before. So the request from the Solid Waste Board is for the county to issue $4.5 million in debt, and that the Solid Waste Board would provide the revenue, provide the money to pay the debt off. And to prepare for this, the Solid Waste Board, effective in July the 1st, raised tipping fees, which is the fee that companies in the city and county pay to dispose of garbage in the landfill, from $38 to $45 a ton. And then they'll have to, the Solid Waste Board will have to look at their tipping fees as well as they move forward with the construction. The construction of the sale, as well as the closure and post-closure plans for it as well. So the request before you tonight is they're asking, the Solid Waste Board is asking for the commitment to issue $4.5 million to pay for half of the expansion of Phase 1 and 2 of the landfill.
Chairman, may I address?
Yes, please.
Mayor, could you, obviously, we've got to do what we've got to do here. The question I have is, what does issuing this debt, does that hurt our credit rating in any way? Does it affect us?
No, it won't affect our credit rating because the revenue's provided. Now, I get, you could say there'll be general obligation bonds, which means that they are backed by the taxing authority of the county government and the city government. That's what general obligation bonds are. And so we are on the hook for that debt. I mean, if the landfill went belly up and there was no money from the landfill, we would have to generate the funds to pay off the debt. But that's not been the history, and that's not going to happen. And so the Solid Waste Board has made the commitment to make the payments for us.
Mr. Chairman, what, was that allocated in the budget for this, being that they knew it was done there?
No, it's not in the budget. The request is coming now.
And
It
again-
wasn't discussed before they done the budget?
Now, which budget you talking about? You're talking the
budget that
Solid
was-
Waste Board or the county's budget?
The county's budget that was submitted, that we have a letter in our packets regarding that. And the caution that, from the way I read it, I'll put it that way, that it showed.
It was not discussed during our budget process. The request had not been presented to the county from the Solid Waste Board.
Chairman, I'd like two questions. One is, are we gonna have interest rate get paid off to us for us loaning that money?
It'll be in the payment. The interest cost will be in the payment, and the Solid Waste Board will pay that interest.
Okay. And how much will that be? A monthly, a yearly, or how's that gonna be?
It'll be twice a year. You'll have 2 interest payments and 1 principal payment.
Okay. And what period of time to terminate that?
It'll be 14 years. The first issue will be 14 years.
14 years.
You can only go as long as the life of the development, which is 14 years on the life of this landfill.
Well,
expansion.
are we gonna pay out of our general fund then? To pay
No,
that?
it'll go, the money will come from the Solid Waste Board, Okay, the money will come from the solid waste board and be deposited into the debt service fund. And then the payments to the bondholders will come from the debt service fund.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a question, please?
Yes.
Sir, if we didn't do this, and we didn't get a new landfill, what would happen?
We would have to contract with either another county or a private entity to dispose of our garbage.
So it's a have to.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes.
so, we're looking at phase one and phase two. And, so they can't take on this loan. We do, but they're gonna pay it.
Correct. That's correct. They're going to generate the
We need more
revenue.
people like that.
And then out of that picture there, you see phase one and phase two.
Yes.
And then where it says Class 1 expansion site, that's the phase 1 and phase 2. Then it has the 16 acres in the GFL. That's the 80 acres that's being purchased. What's in purple at the top part, and the Class 3 is at the very top. So the property that we're purchasing, which will be developed later, is in the top part of the purple.
So what's the pink or the red?
That's the,
Sublet property.
yes.
$350,000.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move forward with this.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Britton. Item 4C, request funding for transitional housing for recovery court. Director Penny Knight.
I apologize. He just reminded me, I'm not on your committee.
Okay.
I'm not on any committee.
Okay. You'll vote during regular commission.
Heavy agenda. I've met several of you. Some of you are new since the last time I was here. Does anybody need an explanation on what recovery court does?
Go ahead.
Explain what we do. We are a judicial district court, a felony post-conviction court. You could simply say most of the people we serve, it's either us or prison for generally multiple years, sometimes decades. We're kind of their last chance. We incorporate intensive alcohol and drug treatment, mental health treatment, supervision, job skills, intensive rehabilitation for convicted felons, nonviolent felons.
Okay.
That is a criteria. 18 and older, Hamblen County residents currently only.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There was previously a recovery court for over 20 years in Hamblen County. It was a misdemeanor court. The felony recovery court started in 2020, December 2020, and we took our first participant in June of 2021. So our oldest participant is 15 months into the program. We're an 18 to 24 month program comprised of 5 phases. We actually have 3 or 4 people in phase 4 now, so we're that old. We have currently 22 participants in our program. We just grew by adding a case manager July 1. So we're definitely growing. We have probably 15 applications of people waiting to see if they can qualify to get into our program. Most of the time, they're waiting because it's a post-conviction court, so they can't have any outstanding court dates or charges. Yes, sir.
Will any of these be in jail, or will they be like on an ankle braces? Will they be out?
So phase 1, you are on house arrest, and we have not incorporated ankle monitors at this time because we have been doing house arrest. There's an app on their phone with a GPS on it that they are required to keep the phone with them at all times. And probably house arrest violations are probably our most frequently sanctioned for people in the community. But there are not ankle monitors yet. Those are expensive. The cheapest we've seen is $45 a week.
Are they encouraged to get jobs?
Absolutely, yes, sir. As a matter of fact, we put some numbers together today, and in 12 months, our participants have paid over $20,000 in court costs off.
Good.
They're working. By phase 3, they have to have, at a minimum, W-2 or 1099 employment, at least part-time. We only have one person of the 23 on disability. Everybody else has a job. We do have a few participants in residential recovery courts. I think you all generously gave some money from the Baby Doe lawsuit to the Northeast Residential Recovery Court they're planning. And we currently have 2 women in Nashville in residential recovery courts. And we have 2 people waiting to go. Somebody's transported next week. And we have a male waiting to go to the Morgan County Residential Recovery Court. So 4 people in our program will be in a 12-month-long program where they reside there.
So fines and court cost, and is restitution included in that? They have to have that?
So yes, and the law now, which probation's not here, they would be able to best answer that. But if you are ordered restitution, you have to pay that first over court costs and fines. And then most of our participants have issues with driver's license, and there's fees and fines and court costs associated with that. And we've had several been able to pay theirs off and get their license back already.
Don't they have a big problem trying to get jobs because they're a felon? Most people won't hire them.
Not today.
Really?
No, sir.
That's good. I know.
They're willing to, we have a bigger problem with work ethic. So we have to work and develop work ethic because a lot of times they've not had jobs in years.
Good.
So getting a job's easy, keeping it's harder. And so we're developing those relationships with employers and an employment agency where, hey, call us. They don't show up, we're going to go knock on their door and say, why aren't you at work? Or we can pull up and see on their phone where they're at. Why aren't they there? So.
Chairman, a question. Out of the $500,000 that you're requesting, how do you allocate, one question is, how do you allocate the purchase of the property and the operations? You know, is that a 50-50 split? Or, and the next part of that question is, how do you're going to pay for this out of the proceeds, I guess, of the program? How many people are required to be able to sustain that operationally?
You are asking questions we have not gotten to yet.
Okay.
So when I began what's the name of the house, Mayor, there by the Justice Center? Yes, so the Hyde House, we had high hopes of getting the Hyde House for transitional living, sober living. And then we were not able to get that. So we've been trying to figure out how we can do this because this is the biggest obstacle for recovery is sober living. And so Dr. Sodney is here with me. We've started a 501c, and the funds, we would hope, if you'd even just earmark it, not necessarily asking, we're not asking for you to write a check, but we want to get ahead of it so the money's not spent, because we need the funds. We haven't even started looking yet. We just know what we need. And
Chairman.
we've needed it since the program began. The Fourth Judicial District has had a sober living. I think it shut down sometime around COVID. They weren't able to sustain it. But the plan to sustain it would be from fundraising, and the participants would be paying rent, weekly rent, which would be significantly cheaper than the housing options available for our participants now. We have a 60-something-year-old lady paying $500 a month for an efficiency basement apartment, a one-room apartment that seeps sewer water in her floor all the time, constantly. We've got another lady paying over $600 for a one-bedroom apartment. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle. We would hope to be very selective in the location so that it's on the bus line, so they can either walk, ride the bus. The bus doesn't run on the weekends, so, but our people they rally around each other and they help each other. And the ones who do have a driver's license, they're willing to kind of help each other out because they know they need those jobs. A lot of them find purpose in it.
Mr. Chairman, you said you had people in Phase 4. Is that the top one right now?
Phase 5.
Phase 5. Okay, when you started, what percentage is still there with you in Phase 4? Out of the number that you had that started?
100%.
100%.
All four. We've lost some participants in Phase 1. They weren't ready to do the program. The public defenders even told the applicants, "You sure you want to do this? Because rehab would be easier, jail's easier than the program." Because it's hard to get sober. It's a change of life, changing everything.
Mr. Chairman, may I address?
Yes, sir.
Of this money that you're asking for, maybe I missed your comment. Are you adding any more folks, or is this just for long-term? How big do you expect to get?
Yes. So currently with just 2 employees, me and the case manager, we can serve 50 to 75 participants.
Okay. All right. So that said, Commissioners, I will address to this that to help anyone that's not aware, in your packet is a balance sheet of the opioid settlement balance that we had. We started, I think the mayor could correct me, is 1.8 million, and we have allocated in quite a bit of that, but we have 1.1 left of that money.
One thing I would like to note, I know the lawsuit, I believe, in my understanding, came from Baby Doe, who was an addict in the womb, had no choice. And I would like to say we had a female participant. She's our second oldest participant. She's been in the program for 15 months. And we're very proud that she gave birth to a baby that was not addicted, and given that child a totally different life. And so to me, that's kind of a totally 180, and that's what we're really trying to do in our community. I'm born and raised here. I've known a lot of you. And when I started this job, I was just totally shocked that there's an underground world in our community that we didn't have any idea existed. And this is one of the ways we really can see a difference.
Commissioner Neesmith?
Why were you not able to get the Hyde House?
I believe it's being used during the construction of the jail. And it would have been very expensive to get it up to code.
Right.
Also, it would, the interior of the home.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, don't have a question, just from personal experience, as I've told before, a lot of you've heard, I was Judge Snyder's court officer for the misdemeanor drug recovery court. Spent many years down there weekly going through. This transitional housing is key to the recovery of these folks. the main problem they have after their treatments and after all the day-to-day monitoring is if they don't have somewhere to go, all they can do is go back to their old life. Go back to the people that were enabling them and or providing for them. This is a wonderful program. It will help our community greatly. And although it may be a little money up front, it will save us untold amounts in the future.
And if I may add a little bit, thank you, actually. That was exactly some of the points that I was going to make. I'm Shiny Sadnia, and I know many of you guys. Some of you I don't know. I'm a physician in town. I've been here for 20 years. My wife is, or my better part of me, or better half of me is Beth, who's the circuit court judge here in town. I've been on the school board. I had been on the school board. I'm not anymore. And Beth actually reached out to me because I was talking about whether I'm going to continue on the school board or not, and whether I was going to, my vision of trying to be doing stuff for the community was whether it's fulfilled as much as I had done, and I was ready to pass the baton, but I was looking for something else to continue on helping the community that has helped me and my family, everything. So when Beth came to me and said, look, I am now in basically starting a drug recovery court for felons here in this town, said, look, we need certain needs, and we have to have some sort of a 501c or some sort of a to help with growing this program. So, and she said, would you consider being on the board of this? So, and at that point I thought, wow, that's a vision that I truly could get behind and want to do. Why? I think part of the reason being is I have seen what these drugs have done to our community. I encourage, if you guys haven't watched Dope Sick, which is a great series that came out, and it really truly, I had not watched it. We watched it last weekend, Beth and I, and I'm not lying if I say that I was crying, so was Beth. I mean, we were sad. The fact that these big companies, they try to target these hardworking folks here and trying to push these dopes down our throats and coming to doctors and saying, hey, this is something that you could, this is all this stuff, this is the material you can give this to for headaches, for stuff that is just not meant to be. And we are out there thinking that we're doing good, and what have we done? Nothing. So, other than hurt our communities, right? So when she told me to get involved with this, I said, yes, I would love to. So I am on that board. It is a non-paying position. I promise you, everybody on it's all volunteers. So my job for this would be to try to, if I could, reach out to the community, to the leaders, to all the people, and try to support this vision that they have, you guys have, for these people who live among us. Because what we know is if you're not living in a sober living where you're accountable, if you go back to the same environment that you were exposed to, you're not gonna make it. And if they don't make it, what ends up happening is they end up going back to the jails, right? And what are we doing? They're not working, they're not paying taxes, they're not paying their fines, they're not being productive to a society. We have a jail that is full of people that are non-violent, they're not sexual violent people. They need this place so that they're accountable. And again, we can't look for these things. My job would be, with the rest of the board members on their 501c, is to raise money for the operational costs and try to promote this and increase it so that we could continue maintaining this. So that's what our job would be, and that's how I came on board. Now, the best part about this is not a money that we're asking for from the taxpayers here. This is money that was allocated for this reason, okay? And I think the fact that we can get a house for them to be able to live in this and be supported beyond the line, to have the therapist come over there and talk to them, be able to go to the court, go to work, have a boss right next to them, that's going to help them in their recovery time and not going back to jail where they're going to continue to do the same thing. So I think the vision is great. I think we can do this. I think the fact that it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money, that's the best thing for our county. So, and that's, I think, will be what we're going to come, and hopefully this will be the only one-time ask, and we will never have to come back and say, hey, this is not working. So, I don't know if you have any questions or
Is this adult felons, or do you see in the future of working with convicted juvenile felons?
A little bit better.
We are an adult program. There are juvenile recovery courts across the country. There's not one currently in Hamblen County. The thing that makes the program work is, one, you have to have a sentence greater than 2 years. And, but that's not saying we can't eventually incorporate a juvenile or even a family court. I mean, many of y'all know I worked for DCS and juvenile court, and now I feel like I'm actually at the root of the problem that causes a lot of the problems in those places. Because those courts work. And that's what, we talk about the funding, and we get our money. There's the 2003, there was an act, and some of the court fines or costs are allocated to recovery court. Then we get a state grant, and the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse gives us $96,000 this upcoming fiscal year. And then our participants pay a $5 weekly fee in phases 3, 4, and 5. And that's not a lot, but they're still putting something in. And I hope, our hope is, we've seen a need for the 501c. We'll have people who need just the copay to get a script filled of antibiotics. Because they don't have any money. The hardest place to recover is in the community. If money wasn't an object, we could just pay and send everybody off to rehab. Some of our most successful people had to leave Morristown. And it'd be easier if some of the ones who stayed would leave, but everybody can't leave. There's not funding for that. And if you're not a female in your reproductive years, you're not going to have insurance. And there's only so much grant money. A grant money will cover, we can get anybody covered for 28 days inpatient. So we can get you stabilized, but then what? I mean, a lot of people don't even have clothes. Leave the jail, don't even have clothes. The jailers often are bringing stuff and giving them something to wear when they leave.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Let me make a suggestion, and that, as Chairman Cutshaw pointed out with that spreadsheet that's in your packet, we have the $1.1 million left of the 1.8. If, for the time being, if you would set aside, if you support this, and I support this as a concept, set aside the $500,000, just set it aside and not earmark it for anything else. But don't release the funds until this group comes back with more meat on the bones, a plan, that we can see what's going to happen in specifics. And then also, one thing I want us to address is, okay, if, let's say, 3 to 5 years from now, the 501c3 bellies up and they have some assets, where do they go? And we could have an agreement with 501c3 that money or the asset comes back to us if we purchased it with these funds. Just those types of details need to be worked out. But if my suggestion would be, you earmark the money, we don't spend it on anything else, and then I can work with the 501c3 and work out the details and bring it back.
Thank you, Mayor Britton.
That's fantastic. And that will give us, if it's earmarked, then we could start looking for things. Right now, we can't, when we were asking, can we go? Because until we have that, something that tells us that we have the county's backing to at least start looking, and then we can start looking, and then we can come back to full plan.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Sadnia.
I'll amend my motion that we set aside $500,000 pending the details worked out by the county mayor with the 501c3 for the Recovery Court Transitional Housing.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Joe. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dr. Sadnia, Director Knight. Thank you very much. Good luck with that. Good luck.
Something out there.
Okay, let's look at item 4D. Engineering services for TDEC and ARPA stormwater projects. Mayor Britton?
There's nothing in your packet right now. There's an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications for engineering services that is on the streets now, and the responses are due back on Wednesday. And what this is for engineering services for stormwater projects that we would undertake to correct some of the water flow issues we have in neighborhoods and other areas. A couple of weeks ago, when we had the big rain on that Thursday, it helped us identify a lot of the areas that need work for these projects. So it's using money. It's about $1.5 million worth of money. It's ARPA money that came directly to the county, used as a match against ARPA money that went to TDEC. And that is earmarked for Hamblen County. So what is before you and what will come to the commission next week is a recommendation on an engineering firm or firms to handle these projects. And they'll help us identify what projects are doable within the $1.5 million budget. So there's nothing in your packet. There's no decisions to be made. I just wanted, it's on the agenda when you see the calendar for the commission meeting, and I just wanted to let you know why it's there.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4E1, Hamilton County Board of Education Budget Amendment, $12,383, transferring funds between line items. Is the supervisor, Tracy Antrican.
Good evening. This amendment, as you said, is a transfer between line items and addresses a change in TCA 492202. Under that state law, previously, it stated that board compensation was set by the county commission. When that law changed this year, it now only states that compensation of the board will not exceed commission compensation and will be approved by the commission through the school board's budget. In August, the school board approved to align board compensation to county commission compensation. In order to do that, we would need an amendment to our budget approved by the county commission for the revised commission pay rates. And we request approval for that amendment, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Antrican?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Harville. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Item 4E2, Hamilton County Board of Education Budget Amendment Number 2, increase of $415,805.15. Ms. Antrigan?
This budget amendment represents $21,441 in grant reserves. And these are grant monies that were allocated and approved by commission last year through our budget, but there was a portion that were unspent at the end of the fiscal year. And this allows us to rebudget those grant funds for the same purpose as they were approved last year. It also includes new grant funds from the Tennessee Arts Commission, HC Excel, goes hand in hand with Tennessee Arts Grant, our Safe Schools Grant, and a curriculum development grant from Niswonger for $6,146. And this provides our teachers with stipends to assist in regional curriculum development. And also $113,737 for Project On Track tutoring from Niswonger as well. And this provides summer school tutoring and after-school tutoring for our students.
Any questions? Need a motion for approval?
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Doty. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Harville? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Move on to item 4E3.
Chairman Hahn, I just want to make sure that we're good with this. I don't think there's a problem, Mayor. You may want to help me. Stan is seconded. He's a member of HCXL, and they have donated part of this money. I don't see that it's a conflict. I just want to make certain that we're not out of line. Has anybody got a judgment on that or a thought? HCXL, which Stan is the executive director, and they have contributed money to our Board of Education. I don't see that it is a conflict personally because it has no compensation in this. It's Stan gave the second. Okay, let's back up, Chairman Hahn, and
Yes, sir.
take that first one, please.
Okay, under those conditions,
Go
we
back
need,
to the first one.
we need to go back to the first one.
Let's go ahead and do both of them,
All right,
just in case.
let's go back to Amendment 1, and I need a motion.
Moved.
Commissioner Doty, second.
I'll second.
All right, that'll be Commissioner Cutshaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, Stan.
We'll talk. Yeah.
Let's move down to Amendment 2, which we've already discussed. We need a motion
Motion.
from Commissioner Doty, second.
I'll second.
Chairman Cutshaw, seconds. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have Commissioner Harville abstaining. All right. Now, that brings us down to item 4E3, Hamblen County Board of Education, Budget Amendment 1, School Nutrition Program, increase of $5,950. Ms. Antrigan.
This budget amendment is through the Tennessee Department of Human Services, and our school nutrition department helps the Department of Human Services, process student information in order to process the pandemic EBT card assistance for students, and they provide a grant to help us pay for additional man hours.
Motion to approve.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, any questions?
Do you still have the free lunch program for the children that are in need, to say the least of the matter, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. And we've been trying to get the word out this year, for the first year in several years because of the pandemic assistance from the government. Free and reduced funds are required this year, so it's still available, but we ask that the parents fill out the form.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion?
Motion.
Commissioner Doty, a second. Commissioner Huntsman? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Thank you, Ms. Antrigan. Item 4E4, Fund 101, County Trustee's Office, $5,000. Mayor Brickman.
If you would all be standing in for Ann, if you will, keep Ann in your prayers. She's not well, and so she's missed some work. And if on the budget amendment for the trustee's office. This deals with the bond that you approved last month, or the commission approved last month for the trustee. We had, the low bid for the bond was $14,438. We had $9,500 budgeted for it. So we're just moving $5,000 from the employee benefits section of the budget to the trustee's budget to cover that difference. So it's just moving money within the budget.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Reed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Huntsman. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Item 4E5, Fund 101, Social, Cultural, and Recreational Projects, $25,175. Mayor Britton.
That title is a long way of saying just Cherokee Park. This is an amendment to the Cherokee Park budget. And this is taking money that we generated from the sale of a mower from the park and a Bobcat that was seized by the Sheriff's Department several years ago. And those funds are being budgeted into, on the revenue side, you'll see in the maintenance, will increase the maintenance equipment line on the appropriation side of the budget. And then the revenue will go into the revenue side for sale of equipment. And $15,500 of that will be used to buy a new mower for Cherokee Park.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Commissioner Reed, second. Commissioner Long. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Item 4E6, Fund 101, UT Extension, $3,843.
Mr. Chairman, this is a budget amendment we do every year to adjust the pay line in the UT Extension budget. The Extension Office, the budget of the Extension Office and its operations and its relation to the county budget is a complex animal. And we pay fully one position. We pay partially the other positions. I think there's one that's federally funded and maybe one paid totally by UT. But basically what we do every time this time of year is we adjust the budget to include the pay raise that county employees received to the county part of the employees' pay in extension. And so that's where the $3,843 is that takes care of that adjustment that needs to be made. And the money is coming from fund balance, from the general fund balance.
Chairman, I'll so move.
We have a motion, Commissioner Cutshaw. Have a second.
Commissioner Howell.
Oh, Commissioner Howell. Second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Hahn of the Finance Committee. One quick thing, Commissioners, just as we came through that committee meeting, one thing we should adjust. As Chairman Hahn presented, we should always have the motion and then a second before we do discussion. That's how we should do that. Take the motion, take the second, and then we open the floor for discussion. No worries, we're operating with leniency as we learn. So just to say that would be the order, and again, to address the chairman when you need to speak. Just we're easing into this, okay?
Chairman
And-
Cutshaw,
Yes, ma'am?
quick question. Who appointed the committees?
I did.
Can
It is
I
the
ask
honor
what
of the chair.
authority? Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can I ask what authority gave you that?
Yes, ma'am, it's the honor of the chair. Yes, ma'am, it's tradition that we've done that, and that's, as far as I know, that's the way it was when I came on board. Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. Okay. Following along with Ms. Green's comments, you know, nothing affects our constituents more than this finance. I mean, where the money goes.
Yes, ma'am.
How it comes in, where is it stored? You know, we've learned about various places it's this balance and that balance, but it affects everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
And every constituent, and even the constituents in Miss Green's, who isn't on here, her constituents are worried about the money, and it would sort of be like, and I'm tickled to be on here, okay. But it occurs to me that with 9, you know, that's a super majority anyway. So,
I mean, it is not. It's 10 for a supermajority.
close, relative.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so.
Could I address that, please, real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, number one, yes, it is the honor of the chair, it is tradition of the chair to appoint the committees, as in any legislative body, the chairman has that authority to do so. And that's just the way I understand it to be, it's the way it's being passed down to me. Now, what you just proposed, everybody still has their vote. Everybody still has their voice. This is a committee meeting, and yes, it is narrowed down to where we work on that. Miss Green, or not being a member of this, should not be read into anything. She may be a member of another committee, but currently she is not a member. This is her first year. When I was appointed, I was told coming in I would not be a member of all committees, and therefore we're all part of it. Everybody is working together. That does not diminish one bit their vote, their voice. Everybody has the same as I do sitting here. Therefore, it was just a choice. We tried to come in. We have some veterans. We have newcomers. We all have got to learn, Ms. Howe.
Oh, yes, I thank you for those comments, and I agree, and none more than I who need to learn. I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
thought that it would be, you know, maybe that would be the one committee that everybody would be on.
And she will have her voice, just as she has tonight. She's been welcome to make her comments, and the chairman, you know, he can or cannot allow, or whichever was. That's the way it should operate.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Mike Richardson of the Public Service Committee, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Call this Public Service Committee to order, please. Anybody wishing to address the committee on agenda items? Now's your time. Seeing none, we'll go on to old business. We have none. Under new business, 4A, Resolution 22, a resolution to amend the zoning map of Hamblen County, District 3, Map 12, Parcel 26.42 on St. Clair Road in Whitesburg. Can you give us a description?
Good evening to the commission. My name's Lori Matthews, and I work for the city of Morristown, which is a consultant for Hamblen County for their planning department. This request comes from property owner Melvin Green. He's requesting his property located along St. Clair Road be rezoned from A1 to C1, which is agricultural, to commercial, to allow for the development of additional mini storage room units. Mr. Green already owns property which adjoins this site to the east, which has in the past been developed into storage units. Additionally, there's a gun and firing range which is located immediately east of the subject property, which of course is commercial. Both of these items, or both of these uses, are currently zoned and used for commercial activity. Staff sees no increased impacts to the surrounding area with the additional storage units being built, and the Hamblen County Planning Commission voted at their last meeting to forward the request on to the County Commission to approve. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions from,
No, Chairman, let's get a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
okay?
I'll
Motion
second.
and a second. Any discussion?
Rodney Long, motion, Ms. Ahern, second.
Any discussion? Call the vote.
All in favor say, just to lead us down that road.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution, the next resolution, 4B, to amend the zoning map, basically on Lake Shore Road.
Yes, sir, Mr. Richardson, and to follow Lori up, I'm also a planner of the city of Morristown. Staff has received a request to rezone a parcel on Lake Shore Road from R1 Residential Zoning District to C1B Commercial Zoning District. This property is just north of the West Andrew Johnson Highway. The applicant is requesting this rezoning in order to build a small office building for their HVAC business. This parcel is roughly 0.7 acres in size. It is currently vacant. It does have commercial uses to the south and west, with Mitchell's Collision Center and Carroll's Grocery to the south, and a recently constructed State Farm office building to the west. Due to the nearby commercial uses and the proximity to West Andrew Johnson Highway, staff recommends approval of this request. And this property is within Morristown's urban growth boundary, so it did go before the Morristown Regional Planning Commission, and they also voted in support of this request.
Thank you. So we have a motion for the resolution.
I'll make a motion.
And a
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4C, Urban Growth Boundary Coordinating Committee. Mayor Britton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an item of information more than anything. There won't be any votes on this, but the term urban growth boundary has been used tonight in planning circles. What that means is that there's an area around the city of Morristown that is in the county that has been designated as an urban growth area. And so if any property owner within that boundary wants to be annexed by the city, they can ask, and if the city wants to take them in, they can do that. There is a property owner in the Witt area, Wallace Properties, that is requesting annexation of some property that is not in the urban growth boundary. So for that annexation to take place, first it has to be placed in the urban growth boundary or within the urban growth boundary, and then the city can decide whether to annex it or not. So what this request from Wallace Properties is doing is triggering the formation and reorganization of our Urban Growth Coordinating Committee. And this is a committee that is formed under Public Chapter 1101. And the last time that we had a committee like this operate was in 2008. And so there hasn't been any changes to the urban growth boundary since then. So by law, I mentioned the urban growth boundary has to be changed for that property to be annexed if the city chooses to do so. The coordinating committee has to be formed, has to gather, and has to make recommendations back to city council and county commission whether to include that property into the urban growth area. And to begin all this is a public hearing. There has to be 2 public hearings by city council and the county commission. We're going to hold a joint public hearing on September 29th at Walter State in the Foundation Room. And there, Steve Nielsen of the city of Morristown will give an education session on the urban growth boundary and basically on Public Chapter 1101, which talks about urban growth planning and that kind of thing. And so he'll go through the process, what has to happen, what the committee has to do, who's on the committee, the law designates certain people, certain communities within the county to be represented on this coordinating committee. And so he'll educate us all on that. So because of the request by a property owner to be annexed, and the property's not in the urban growth boundary, that's triggering the urban growth coordinating committee to be formed and to operate. And so the first step is this public hearing. It's on September 29th at 6 o'clock in the Foundation Room. And I want to encourage everybody here to attend. Any questions on that?
This, Mr. Chairman, this property is on the outskirts of Hamblen County,
It's in Hamblen County.
but it's on
It's outside.
Almost in Jefferson
It's on-
County.
Yeah, it's on the Jefferson County border.
Okay.
Yes, it borders.
Any other questions?
Chairman, what was the time of that meeting on the 29th? Do we have a time set for
6
that?
o'clock.
6
6
o'clock
o'clock.
at Walter State.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Have no other business, this committee adjourns.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Richardson. And now I'll call on Chairman Thomas Doty, Chairman of the Calendar and Rules Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Calendar and Rules Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address this committee on agenda items this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Old business, we have none. New business, item 4A, review of the regular calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
A motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4B, review of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Call for the, let's see. Mr.
You're not
Long,
on
did you
that.
second that one?
Yes. He's not on it.
You're not on that
Oh,
committee.
I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call for the vote. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No other business, we'll adjourn this committee.
Thank you, Chairman Doty, Calendar Rules. Folks, that concludes our business, and just take note, we have our full first commission meeting next Thursday night, 5 p.m. right here in this room. Meeting adjourned.